is Cannabis Talk. That is totally the wrong music. This is a little track called Burlesque by David Schletzley, something like that. Schletzley. And, it's over now. It's gorgeous, it's hilarious, and adorable. It always makes me giggle. That track makes me really happy inside. And, it was, for those of you who are old-timers, part of the original intro to a video project, that was called, what did I call it back then? It was like the very first iteration of this. I wanted to do a video show on YouTube, but I originally envisioned something sort of as highly produced as I could hustle on my own time. And quite frankly, without like another person to help and sort of make the tedious task of setting up shots and shooting them go smoother and stay on track, and also to help take turns editing, it was just a bit exhausting. Too much work to do on all oneself, and keep a good pace up going too. Like, I have halfway decent ideas for that little craziness, and I could do deeper stuff, like if I took more time. But then the whole thing would be really, really slow. Anyways, so hey, for posterity, not posterior. For posterity, for the annals of history, for the record book, as it were, just moments ago, live on the Sprecher Studio platform for podcasting, that was not supposed to be neither a German nor a Russian accent. That was just some kind of weird diphthong going wrong in my mouth. Sorry, theater nerd. I'll do weird half-ass accents that turn into their own imaginary dialects of nothing. Digressing, back to the point. Earlier, there was actually a listener on the Sprecher Studio platform that logged into my chat room for the show that I was on earlier. I just realized I made a mistake, and I should have stayed and rebooted the show under the same show title, so that guy could find me quicker. He might... I don't know if it was a male or female. I couldn't quite make out the picture. But there's a little chat room here on the side of the platform next to my mixie board for the music tracks. And someone popped on and said, hi. And I was like, hello, I've never used the chat room. I don't fumble, type at the keyboard. I feel really bad because they're probably over there refreshing the other page because I said I'll be right back. But I also announced that I was going to do Cannabis Talk because it is officially 420 now here in... Hey, there we are. I have returned. The Snarky of Oz. Hello, the Snarky of Oz. And you have returned live on Sprecher. This is like a historic first. Future podcast listeners will be astounded. I've never had anyone actually tune in on the platform before, so thanks. Yay, thank you for finding me. To me, okay, this is exciting. Now we're talking. Happy 420, the Snarky of Oz. Thank you kindly. So, are you from Australia? Are you wearing a hat? It looks like. Who are you and why are you listening to my podcast? And thank you. And don't mind if I do. Rock on. So, I was going to talk about specific things, and I am totally honored and excited and, of course, wicked distracted. You're in Oregon. Okay, cool. Well, hello to you in Oregon from Southern California. What were we talking about before? Oh, the cure for all this, and that was the other episode. Now we're talking about cannabis and stuff, and you love podcasting, and my show seemed interesting. Well, thank you kindly. I have to be really honest with you, Snarky of Oz. It could be a lot better. I have never had a guest speaker on before. I've never interviewed on anybody on my show before. Up until recently, I could only just occasionally, in between work, drop on. I didn't know how often I was going to really be able to do it. And then summer came along, and I had lots of free time for a concentrated period. So here I am doing it all the time. And you are the very first audience person. And if you want to share on the subject of meditation and or cannabis and or politics, yay, huzzah! No, I'm aware. Yeah, kudos. Shout out to all of Oregon for being recreational use legal. If you haven't listened to any of my previous episodes, I have been very interested. I have a deep interest in contributing to the future development of cannabis culture, because I think I see some pitfalls that may or may not seem obvious to a lot of other people. It's addicting. Cannabis or podcasting? I don't think that cannabis. Rock on. Hi, thank you for just finding me on here. And first time that's ever happened that someone's walked into the chat room. So if I seem like I don't know how to handle a chat room chit chat with you, it's just that. Never happened. You're my first. You're my first Snarky of Oz. Both. It's addicting. I personally, but you meant pots. Cool. Rock on. Yeah. No, it's addictive. It's addicting to let yourself go and ramble and know that maybe someday someone else will hear it. And I personally, coming back to cannabis, I personally am of the opinion that it actually facilitates the cessation, which is the technical sort of jargon, medical jargon from the addiction industry. It facilitates the cessation of other addictions. Now, addiction is a really complicated issue. Cherry Pop. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm really laggy. Not that my internet is laggy. I'm laggy at actually reading your things. So I'm honored and flattered, and that it's the interaction you love. Cool. Well, I do too, and I'm excited to be interacting with you. I'm a little svetsy because I do much better actually conversing with other people. I was just convincing about that recently. Probably have too many episodes that I complain. To finish my thought on cannabis, whether or not it's addictive, I think that addiction is a big murky subject, and it has multiple components to it, and we often too readily address it as a one-dimensional problem. That there's it's a disease paradigm. We kind of reduce it as something that is out of the person's control, but that's always sort of meant to be empowering and can be empowering in terms of coping with it and overcoming it. There's a couple of common paradigms out there about addiction, and I think that very much I totally agree with you. Podcasting is a way for us to connect with people in botanicals too, and radio. Yes. There's multiple ingredients addiction, right? So you can't write off cannabis as just being addictive. I genuinely don't think that by itself it is. I'm one of those crazies though that likes to point out that the human body has an endocannabinoid system, right? So independent of any cannabis intake, the human body uses THC and CBD and the other lesser famous, lesser known cannabinoid type, because we have a cannabinoid system. But I'm crazy enough to posit that all of life forms are interrelated and are part of one family. So we're just big talking vegetables, and we, with meat. And or conversely, we also used to eat it heavily. But there's a bunch of reasons why I sort of endorse cannabis. Yes, yeah, that I cannot disagree with. High five. We have that in complete agreement. Human beings themselves are habit-forming creatures, and we form habits. Arguably, life itself is, by form and by function, a habit-forming phenomena. Okay, cool. I'm glad that. I'm sorry for rambling in the opposite direction, and I stand corrected. I'm glad we hear each other, if not in sync time wise, at least we're now on the same page. Yeah, human beings, totally. We can get addicted to anything, and that, as I was talking about in a previous segment, mind you, is very much about ego, in my opinion, and in the opinion, my humble opinion, and in the opinion of many others. And that ego itself is sort of like a terribly nasty bad habit. Well, thank you, I appreciate it. I always want to respect everybody who comes to listen to this, and I'm reminded to say I'm not about forcing people or convincing anyone to think the way I do, but I do like to throw out clever, my ideas, which hopefully people find interesting and engaging and potentially clever, and that prompts personal investigation of your own phenomena, and that you find whatever truths are true in your universe. Life is habit forming. Life itself is an addiction to itself, to life, to the process, to the genome. The genome itself is an addict. It's a junkie. And to what? To this entire meta phenomena. I appreciate your statement that the chat is hard to keep up with. I talk fast, probably way too fast, and I totally get that I'm broadcasting at a different rate than people can type and respond back at me. And it's an adjustment for me because historically, no one's ever been in the chat room to respond back at me. You're so kind to play along and to be forgiving of my inexperienced or lack of experience in this particular way. So thank you. And yeah. So that you know, dear listener, dear singular listener, sort of the meta purpose of my podcast is to sort of stitch together, or rather to present the crazy meta thesis that I've been stitching together, which of course is comprised of many other, bits and pieces of many other theories and theses. Rachel, all right. Well, I feel special. We're on first name basis. Hi there, Rachel. I'm RJ, otherwise known as the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. But there's a whole long story as to why I go by a pseudonym. And I don't know if you actually want to hear about it at this time. But this is a total freeform episode. So we can chit-chat about anything and everything under the sky, as it were. Excuse me a second. I don't know if the microphone picks that up. I love that sound. I kind of really want to do a really excellent recording of a perfect bong rip and just have that. Especially for days when I do any podcasts and I'm abstaining, which I always suggest that all of us as cannabis enthusiasts, that we work in a schedule of abstinence to our. Rachel has a question, which I only just now noticed on the chat room thingamabobbers, and that's indicating clearly that the sound went through. That was a bong. Do I have a call-in number? I will shortly, actually. That's something that's been worked on in the background, and I'm just missing a physical phone device, which is a thing I tend to solve in the not too distant future. Thanks for that. I appreciate your enthusiasm. I hope that you're a return audience and return caller, dear Rachel, the Snarky of Oz. And but it's a bong, to answer your question. It's a really, I find, uniquely designed bong. I don't see anything like it in any of the smoke shop glassware shelves. Not that I do a focused or conscious effort to go review the current trends in bongware. And I find it interesting. My Instagram account. Awesome, thanks, Rachel. She says, I will most def my invitation to become a repeat listener. I don't have a tight schedule, but I'm working on that. I'm trying to do at least 1 or 2 segments daily, by the way. So this bong, by the way, it's as a cannabis enthusiast, I think other cannabis enthusiasts will appreciate this. Because we do form bonds with our devices, with our glassware, as it were. And even I, as a transcendentalist or a Buddhist or a Zenist, whatever label you prefer, because I don't really like labels, right? So, but whichever one makes the most sense to you. If you understand any of those, you'll know that one of the main sort of challenges is to abdicate bonds. So yeah, it's one of these things that I simultaneously cherish and try to have an attitude of absolute letting go of at all times. But this particular, I think it's about 1.5 feet tall, and I've had it for almost 15 or 16 years. Yeah, right? Rachel, the Snarky of Oz, says her first pipe was her baby. And yeah, we bond with them. Just like the way people bond with cats and other pets. Cats being the superior, queens and goddesses above all other pets. No offense to you dog people. Dogs are awesome. I love dogs too. I'm not a one or the other, but cats sort of do reign supreme above all. Whole cultures in history used to worship them as gods. But I digress. I find this piece interesting, this bong of mine, and then I'll stop. Yeah, 15 years, right? My number one fan over there is like, wow. And I myself sometimes find myself marveling in it. And I have to take special moments of real deep appreciation and gratitude. Because as you may know, thanks. She congratulates me on having kept it this long. As you know, as anybody who deals with glassware, and especially with any kind of passion, if you handle glassware, you own glassware, you collect any form of glassware, bong, cannabis related or otherwise, you're probably familiar with the ancient phrase from France. I wish I had it in front of me in French so I could read it, because I can do a halfway decent fake French accent. But wherever there is glassware, there shall be breaking. I think that's a pretty decent English translation of the French. I have to dig it up. I'm not going to take the time to dig. Well, maybe I should. It's funny to me and it's cute. But wherever there is glass, it shall be broken. Is another way you could spin it. But they were quite wise, and one should always remember that in anticipation. And trust me, in my adult life, as a friend of cannabis enthusiasts, as an observer of cannabis culture, as a part-time, and then eventually sort of, I'm a full-time member of the tribe, which that doesn't mean how often or the quantity of consumption. I just mean like the way we identify. I used to only occasionally smoke with others, and I was always sort of welcome with those groups of people because I fit in really well, I suppose. Glass breaks, man, and it's tough because you love your pieces, and you got and so shout out to anybody else out there who's got a really awesome, ridiculously long-lived piece, and much love in anticipation to its eventual demise, because it will. All things will break. All things glass will break, just like all things alive will die. And there's no shame in that. There should be nothing to fear in that. Yes, human beings are clumsy and addictive to getting new things. As we are discussing, our listener, our number one listener today, contributes that her husband is notorious for breaking glass, picture frames, phone screens, etc. Yeah, I'm particularly fond of, and I have, for better or worse, really vivid memories, as I'm sure you might too, Rachel. Vivid memories of past glassware that you've broken, and if you let it get to you, vivid fears. Well, yeah, clumsiness has got nothing to do with consumption of cannabis, although in the propaganda against cannabis use, it is one of the many qualities that is attributed to it, the after effects of cannabis consumption. Which arguably might be true during the early onset of the body being slightly overwhelmed with the uplifting and healing and positive effects of ingesting cannabis. But eventually you get over that part, and then you're like pretty on point. At least that has been my experience, and I would suggest the experience of many others. I'm glad you didn't kill your friend, Rachel. It is maddening when we trust someone with something so beloved, and of course it is glass. It's bound to break anyways. It's going to, right? Not to be nihilist about it, but one shouldn't live in fear of those kinds of things. One should live prepared for their ultimate occurrence, and know that you can have, you can choose how you will respond to the epic, tragic event of something like that really happening. Like I know that I can choose now, long before this piece ever does break, how I will respond to it breaking. And it's really sort of up to us, right? And we have that choice. We have that that opportunity. And it's sort of the fool's errand to not have a choice chosen before something we really love breaks, because then you're going to fucking freak the fuck out and really be upset about it. And who needs that extra stress? See what I mean? Yeah, like, I've never chased anyone down the street, but apparently our fan here has. And, yeah, you know, if we're not prepared for the loss, if we haven't already let it go, spiritually speaking, or intellectually speaking, it also helps, to just be braced. Not in an anxiety-ridden, clinging to it kind of way. Not in a trying to avoid it, hyper, you know, I'm not advocating for hyper-vigilance, because that just wears you down too. But just in the Zen sense of, like, knowing that just like when you get a pet, it's going to die someday, and you buy a piece of glassware, it's gonna break. Luckily, he had the longer legs. So, yeah. And, of course, you know, ultimately, we just move on and get something else just as pretty. Hopefully. But knock on wood, I personally intend to keep this piece of mine as long as humanly possible. Right on through the end of the world, if necessary. If it happens in our lifetime. I'm going to make sure I'm going to Johnny Apple seed this nonsense and bring this with me into that post-apocalyptic future we're all going to have to band together and survive on. So, I'm sure one day it probably will, like, tumble through the air, and it's a beautiful piece. I usually don't care for video, but I do wish I had the ability to instantly, right now, share with you an image of it as you're listening. I can't. And it's irrelevant, right? Everybody loves whatever piece they love, and whatever objects in the world we almost irrationally can't deny our inherent love and attraction for. That sort of thing is A-okay. Bubble wrap it for the apocalypse. Yeah, I can. I might. Bubble wrap is helpful. I should stockpile some, huh? Some bubble wrap. I'm one of those horrible people that believes in some sort of grinding to a halt of society is unavoidably, like, right up upon us. But I'm not so far along in believing that, or I don't think that the timeline is so far along in our lifetime that I've started hoarding. Nor do I think that my calling is to just hunker down to try and just survive it on my own. So I haven't really started stockpiling anything. And to return back to the chat room here on Sprecher and answer your question, I sometimes dabble with FB Live and Skype, but I hate it too. And thank you for not calling me crazy. Yeah, the end of the society as we know it is near, relatively speaking, because it's already, the beginning of the beginning has already begun. I don't want to sound too dark, but it is quite firmly my belief that, oh, you are you? I'll come back to the bug out kit thing in a second. I'm firmly of the belief that the beginning of the end begins most arguably right after World War II, and that the seeds of the downfall of Western civilization were sown by that war, by the trauma that war caused, and by the machinations of the elite hidden class, oppression class, the profiteering class, the professional profiteers that made money off of everything in every direction, every which way possible, including the war itself, the suffering of those who participated in the fighting of the war, the suffering and the trauma of those at home, etc., etc. You don't really need a conspiracy theory more complicated than ego plus greed equals more is never enough, and the square root of war is the most profitable business that doesn't look like a business. that's ever been invented. And enjoy your tasty beverage. Thanks for the thumbs up and the endorsement and for listening. Rachel, the snarky of Oz. Listening to my podcast on an Android. How awesome. How much in the future is that? How cool. It can be shocking sometimes, right? My friends, to really stop and fully consider just how impactful it means to acknowledge that we live in the future. If you're under a certain age, you may not feel like there's been enough change for that sensation to really suddenly take effect and rattle you. But trust my younger friends, my brothers and sisters under whatever that certain age has to be. It's a natural, organic thing. One day you suddenly realize, holy shit, I'm living in the future. The future that at one point in my life seemed impossible and not quite here yet. And here we are. Rock on! Hopefully you're doing it safe and without the need to go driving anywhere anytime soon. Otherwise, I have no judgments. I'm always an advocate. Enjoy whatever tasty adult beverage you want. But please, oh please, have a designated driver, an Uber Lyft, a taxi cab, or a couch you can crash on, or a park bench. Because drinking and driving is a big no-go, my friends. It's severely dangerous for yourself, for others around you, etc., etc., etc. But yeah. So, war, profiteering, here we are. We're on the brink of it. I mean, we are currently in the prequel. And I think I've said this before, maybe not on this particular podcast, not the Cannabis Talk one, but maybe on some of my earlier experiments with the video show. Excuse my bodily functions as I hiccup and try not to sound silly on the air. I think I contained that. I think I totally contained that. I was on the verge of hiccuping, folks. You just witnessed live history. I contained my hiccup. For those of you who thought that was impossible, I just literally did it. I have no reason to fib to you. I was about to hiccup. I felt it coming on like one might a sneeze. And with the holding of my breath and some drinking of water, I contained it. If I sound a little bit crazy being excited about that, it's sort of a first for me. It's a day of firsts. Rock on. I'm glad, Rachel. It's quite fun to have someone listening real time on the live platform. I'm so used to thinking about this as something that's just a thing on YouTube that people in the future will listen to. It's sort of like my time capsule. But thanks for being part of the fun. Fart on air, if you could. Would you now? Cool. Farts are real. Good. I'm glad that you're acknowledging. Some people don't believe in farts, especially some ladies. They are, adamant protesters of the... I'm sure you've got lady friends that claim that women never fart and never poop. And that's a little unsettling, but there they are, believing in it. You giggle with your butthole. Okay. All right. That's hilarious. That's making me lose my shit right now. Okay. Comedy from our live Sprecher fan listening on the Sprecher platform. We got 9 minutes and 54 seconds left in this particular episode of Cannabis Talk. And so far, my friends, we haven't talked much about cannabis, I don't think, right? Cannabis. If I sound crazy to you, forgive me. If I don't sound crazy to you, thanks. And welcome to the team, because we need to spread the following news. Have you heard the good news? Cannabis not only has medical benefits, which are finally being given the acknowledgement in mainstream. Thank you, and I did. Rachel, I did, and I am relaxing. So yeah, it's important to keep that research going, in my opinion. We're finally getting the recognition slowly in different places, in different ways, at a global scale, really. That cannabis is a natural and healing plant, and not some horribly dangerous. It's going to kill you. It's going to drive you to the gateway drug is a label that I've have long had a lot of discomfort with. Right. Well, Rachel, that's an excellent question. Rachel asks, for the others listening in the future, do you prefer CBD or THC, and do I prefer sativa or indica? I'm an unusual weirdo, so don't let my opinion turn you off. I'm the kind of person that has to admit, for better or worse, I don't seem to experience a phenomenological difference between indica or sativa. And generally, I'm holistic. I'm a big fan, and I'm a big enthusiast, a supporter of both CBD and THC. I think that the whole plant has something to offer to us. The whole family of plants has got something to offer to us. And if nature at large has anything to teach us, is that it's never one tool that wins the day or fixes the problem. It's how you use a confluence of tools. And as I'm sure I've said before, and I'm going to have to say again, I'm a firm believer that cannabis is a divine tool. It's a gift. Just like in ye old ancient times, in Greek mythology, and totally, I agree with you about it's fine. The fundamentals about sativa and indica are fun, and like with wine, they're interesting. And for some people, there's a big nuanced palette there. There's an experience palette, but phenomenologically, honestly, I can sit down and smoke an indica that is described as a really heavy indica. And then I can sit down and smoke a sativa that is described as a really intense sativa. And they pretty much feel the same to me. And yes, I'm a big supporter. Some people, I think everyone has different needs, right? So yeah, some people, and I'm really proud of, so high five and kudos to the industry that we are providing CBD exclusive edibles and other products. I think there's a lot more research worth looking into. And not to be repetitive, I know I've talked about this on previous episodes, but real quick, because I don't know if our live fan here on Sprecher platform has heard me say this before, because she mentioned she just joined us today out of the blue. I believe that there's more to it with cannabis, that it's nutrition. That it's nutrition that we're supposed to be consuming like food or drinking. The way whole juicers, whole plant, whole fruit juicers are juicing, combinations of fruit. And in fact, my theory goes crazy enough to say that we probably used to use hemp and cannabis a bunch of different ways, and cook with both the products derived from both of those plants, and other plants for a really intense health benefit, for a really intense nutritional benefit, and for a really intense uplift or facilitation or boosting of our meditation practices. Because I based on the academic work of many others, endorse the meta theory that there was once indeed a golden era. It's what we, whether you think of it as literal or symbolic, I totally went to go look at my clock. I got less than 4 minutes left. I meant to catch it before the 4 minutes and 20 seconds mark for a final toke here. Cheers and high five to... Oh, yes, I totally agree. Rachel, the Snarky of Oz, our first ever live listener, has had awesome suggestion for the next cast. We should talk about kids and medical use of botanicals and, that whole issue. Thank you very much for that suggestion. It is note taken and enthusiastically approved for future discussion. Because I know that there's a lot of conflicting news. Toking. Woohoo! Toke taken. Now to play, I think, almost got the final bit of time. Our closing music here, and to say thank you to Rachel, the Snarky Vaz, here on Sprecher.com for joining us live for the first time ever anyone has. I hope the quality is good. Feel free to send me play some Sublime. Cause you asked, and I'm gonna feign ignorance. I don't know what the rules are about playing specific commercial music. I'm gonna go to the YouTubes and look up some Sublime and play if I can do it in time. YouTube Sublime 3 joints. I think they did a cover of that, right? If we got time, we will. Here it is. Just for you, my first ever live fan. Oh, they're going to force a commercial on us first. I hope it's playing. I don't know if it is, if it's coming through on the feed. Maybe I need to take the speakers off. I've got a commercial playing on the thing. YouTube. Here we go. Skipping ad. I took the headphones off, so it should just be the music now. And I don't think it's playing. Darn it. Fail. And I think I'm about to run out of time, too. But we tried. Boom. I'm going to have it queued up next time, Rachel. I got 1 minute and 36 seconds. So the music I do have queued up within the app is this. Didn't want the feedback on that crazy. There we go. Boom. And it's going. And thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. That was fun. That was the first. It was epic. And I shall follow you. And thank you for listening in. And thanks for your suggestion for that next talk. I'm going to make sure that that's what we talk about on this particular segment. Check out my other segments, by the way. And if you like what you hear, some of them are awesome. Some of them are horrible. But like the ones you like and share, please. And thank you. And I'll be back soon. May peace, love, and grooviness be with you, and all future listeners of this and all the different segments on the podcast project. I am the incorrigible Mr. Zappo. This has been a production of C10 Studios, my imaginary production company in my mind that I hope to launch someday once I get some investment capital. Thanks, yeah. If this was live on a video thing, I would do the Charleston and do a dance event. I'm actually quite physical. On that note,